Jeff and Jeremy in the Morning podcast brought to you commercial free by another podcast. You've subscribed to ours, now subscribe to theirs. It's the Slow County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Swayze. When you're done with this, go listen to something that will actually enrich your life. California DRE 011111911.
93.3 KZOZ FM San Luis Obispo rocks.
Hey, here we are. Another Friday! Good morning. Happy Friday to you, Jeff.
Weekend's going by fast, brother.
I know. The weekend is here. We got football picks coming up at 7:20 this morning. Get Leslie and Patrick on. We'll break down the playoffs for week 20 of the NFL season. More on that in a little bit. I didn't know this, but apparently Starbucks would allow anybody to come in and just hang out and loiter. You didn't have to buy anything. You could just come in, use their internet, and sit at their tables, on their couches, use their bathrooms. That's probably why their bathrooms are always so tore up. Every time
You didn't gather that from when you walk into a Starbucks?
There's always a lot of people in there. I didn't realize it. So half of them not like even. I mean, the thing is, they are now changing that open door policy, saying you have to buy something to stay.
Good.
I'm like, well, that's how it should be
from the get-go.
Yeah, well, that's how it should be. I think you're sending a mixed message. I wonder how much it's cost Starbucks versus how much they make. You know, okay, we got an open door policy. Come on in and hang out. We got the heat on. We got, read your book, whatever you're going to do. Get on your tablet.
Sit by a fake fireplace.
And then they end up purchasing something
Listen
versus
to some really
how many
hip music.
seats and, that were taken up. So I always would go to the one over on Five Cities Drive there by California Fresh on the corner there. That's my wife's favorite one. And so I would a lot of times go surprise her while she would jump in the shower. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to run.
I was busy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so busy. And there's no drive-through. And there's packed full of people. And I had no idea that their policy was that anybody could come in and hang out. That has now changed.
Hanging out at a Starbucks or just popping in to use the restroom will cost you. The coffee chain is reversing its open door policy. So Starbucks says anyone who enters the building must buy something. It's part of the company's new code of conduct. People who don't follow the rules will be asked to leave. It reverses a rule that was put in place in 2018 after two black men were arrested at a Philadelphia Starbucks for hosting a business meeting there and not buying anything. Starbucks says the new rules are designed to prioritize paying customers.
Are you kidding me? Who has the balls to go in and host a company meeting at a Starbucks and not buy anything? Like, we're just going to take up all your tables and chairs over here in the corner. It's probably a small company, right? I mean, Starbucks aren't that big. Some are probably, but wow.
It's funny because we were Christmas shopping downtown San Luis Obispo, and my son, we were Christmas shopping as a family. So my son's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh man. He's like, I gotta go bad. I was like, fine. I'll run him over to Starbucks real quick. He's gonna go to the bathroom. So we run over to the new Starbucks, which is the old Pete's, which was the failed tea company place or whatever. And I walk in, and somebody's using the restroom, so we have to wait. Which seeing him dance around while waiting is comical. And I kind of look around, and that Starbucks is designed to not have anybody stick around. There's hardly any seating.
Right.
The little limited seating that they have is like some stools face out sort of the window in the street and a tiny thing. It's almost like, I don't know if I've ever brought it up before, but they're in Anaheim, there's by Disneyland. I forget what the corner is, but it's where the 7-Eleven is by main intersection in Anaheim. Anyways, there used to be a lot of homeless people that would sleep on the bench there. Well, the city of Anaheim came in and they replaced the bench with these like lean-to seats where the only way you could use it is if you're just going to lean against it.
Okay.
And there's like 4 or 5 of them sitting there, and that's the only way you could wait for the bus. So they made it so you can't fall asleep on a bench or lay down on the ground there. They made it unappealing to lay down on the ground there because they stick these poles up, and there's like seats that you kind of just lean up against. You don't like kind of like they put armrests on the benches in downtown Slow to thwart people from falling asleep there. It works kind of, but not as well as those lean-to seats, because there's no way you could go to sleep on those. Like, you're just kind of leaning your butt up against it. That's kind of how the Starbucks was designed. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I was like, okay, this is a grab-and-go Starbucks. And they just, opened up the new one at the Village Host, which my question is for you, Starbucks. You have big shoes to fill. How good is your pizza? Because Village Host was good pizza.
So that must have a big seating area in that one.
Yeah, that's got to have a huge seating area. So they have the ones that have the seating areas, but I think Starbucks is going to
drive-through.
To a model. Well, that's a slow thing.
I know. No drive-through.
Every single one in
huge
my
parking lot,
hood.
huge facility, no drive-through. Yeah. Anyways, I'm on board with any business. They should, unless you're doing business there, unless you're planning on, spending money.
Don't you, if you go into a place to go use the bathroom, don't you feel guilted into buying something because you're using their facilities?
I do. And it's usually a convenience store / gas station. You pop in, you run in, use the bathroom. But normally I'm getting fuel or something. I'll start fueling my truck, and then I'll run in, use the bathroom, come back out.
We stopped in at a Starbucks in Williams on our holiday travels. And there's 2 bathrooms. They're both gender neutral. Anybody can use them, type of thing. And then you go wash your hands outside. And so we picked the one on the left. My daughter and my wife picked the one on the right. And we went to the one on the left, and we walked out. And then they're waiting for the one on the left. And I'm like, how come you guys didn't use that one? And they're like, oh, somebody shoved a Dr. Pepper can into the hole of the
toilet.
The toilet. So we went and told them, and I guess they're going to look into it. And then we went and bought our coffee after using the restroom, and then they had to close down the restroom because the Dr. Pepper can was not only shoved down in there but crushed down in there, and they couldn't dislodge it, so they had to call a plumber. That is why we can't have nice things, and that is why you now must buy something when you go into Starbucks bathrooms. Because you guys,
my thing.
You're a bunch of animals.
Women have to hate this gender neutral bathroom setup, and the same situation you're talking about. You walk into a room, it's got the sinks all there,
yes.
And then you got 4 doors, and anybody can use any door. Because guys, listen, I try to because I'm married. I put the seat down, I try to clean up, but a lot of guys don't. They'll just leave the seat up, they'll pee all over the place, and now you're a woman and you have to go in and deal with that. That can't be something that you enjoy. That can't be something. That has to be something that bugs you a little bit.
You talk about an equality type of thing. If you just went back to men's and women's bathrooms, you would have expectations going into the bathroom of what that bathroom is like. Like I'm with you on this. Women know how to take care of a bathroom. Men do not.
Yeah,
it's just
I hate public bathrooms. As a matter of fact, when I used to be in certain cities, if there was a Nordstrom, I would always go to there if I had to use the toilet because their bathrums are the cleanest bathrms I've ever been in.
Yeah, but wasn't that like on the 5th floor or something like that?
There's elevators, there's escalators.
It's
worth it. It's worth it. I'd be dancing like your son, but it was worth it because when I got in there, I felt like it was clean and it didn't stink, and I could do my business.
Nordstrom doesn't have a drive-through, Jeremy. Come on.
93.3 KZOZ rocks.
Don't forget the show is in podcast form. So if you're an early morning listener, but you have to miss the second half of the show, well, it's in podcast form and it's broken down by hour thanks to our friends at Team Swayze. If you're into real estate, the market, check them out. It's the Slow County Real Estate Podcast. They have a great podcast as well. Jeff actually is the executive director of it. I don't know. Is that true? I probably just...
No, we're not in... We don't do titles, man.
Anyways, it's a great podcast, Slow County Real Estate Podcast. And check out our podcast, Jeff and Jeremy in the Morning. You can subscribe to it. You can give us 5 stars, too, if you're feeling generous.
So I made the mistake yesterday of reaching out to 2 members of the same band to find out what their influences were. Because I wanted to see...
Well, what was the band?
This is JD Project.
Oh, of course it was. The 2 guys that are in our fantasy football league.
Right.
The 2 guys you have is phone contacts for that are in a band.
So coming up, I'm going to read you the response from the singer and the response from the bassist of this band, because they're in our fantasy football league, and you're going to tell me, you're going to match the response to who you think it would be, okay?
All right. Yesterday we were talking about the most influential rock bands of all time. We know that Zeppelin and the Beatles and Rolling Stones are definitely in that conversation. We were asking about some others, and we got in a conversation about Metallica and just like, well, who do they really influence, and kind of went back and forth.
My question in the text message to JD Project, or at least two of the members of JD Project, being Doug and John, was who is JD Project's biggest influence? Here are the responses. You got to tell me whose response is who.
Okay.
I don't think we could pick just one, and we each have different influences that impact our individual playing
That's
style.
definitely Doug. That is definitely Doug.
Band-wise, I'd say the band, Led Zeppelin, Black Crowes, the Eagles, and the Dead. And then, I'm going to leave off the second part of that because it implicates who the next response is to. Okay, now, are you locked in that it's Doug?
That is Doug, for sure.
Okay, the other response was one influence. That's tough. I would say that our rock influences, those are our rock influence. We also have country influences from Hank, Waylon, Willie. I think if you had to pick a single influence, it would probably be somebody like Zach Brown, because they blend rock and country while open to Latin and other foreign rhythms.
They're a good band. They're a good band.
Awesome.
Boy, it really sounded like Doug, that first response. So I'm going to stick with my gut.
The second one didn't sound like Doug either?
It did. It did sound like Doug too.
You were right initially, Doug. Because the lead's always got to have the first answer.
You got to remember, we've had Doug on the show a number of times. He was on Jeopardy and I remember asking him questions, and he's just, I'm not going to call him a fence setter, but he definitely doesn't want to just come right out and.
Dude, that is exactly how he is in fantasy football too. You're like send him a trade.
Oh yeah,
He's like,
I don't know.
That's pretty interesting. Dot. And then 3 days later, you're like, "Hey, what about the effing trade, bro?"
Yeah, I mean, okay, what are we doing here?
And he's like, "No,
I think I'm good.
Let me take a look at it." Never playing poker with that guy.
Yeah.
Never playing poker with Doug.
John, on the other hand, you send him a trade, he denies it right away, or he counters back with where he's trying to take advantage of you because your season is hurt with injuries and you have a bad record.
His never is for.
He's out for blood. He's out for blood, and he's. Let's get to the point right away. Yeah. And he did in that answer. So, all right.
Did Metallica end up taking it home in that poll question?
I guess you got to know your bands.
Being the biggest influence?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look up the final results. We got a new question up now. We'll get to that coming up next.
Jeff and Jeremy in the morning.
You brought up some things that were out of favor, like trends that are going away. This is one that I'm so glad is going away, and I feel bad for anybody who remodeled their house during COVID. This is specifically to homes, okay? Homes and home design and decor. Poll of 2,000 Americans said that farmhouse chic is fading in popularity. So that farmhouse look for the house.
Chip and JoJo show, the whatever Magnolia. They would always do the. I always kind of liked it because it was rustic, but it was
fake rustic. It was rustic.
It was rustic.
It
was kind of rustic. You know, you'd see the shiplap and the distressed wood and everything was white, though, and kind of a polished aluminum, silver, whatever. I don't know what would say that is, but okay, that's going away, huh?
Yeah, it's fading in popularity. You know what's coming back?
Earth tones. I don't know.
Kind of. Stained glass. Stained glass is coming back, which is good for my front door because that's stained glass. My wife's like, I hate stained glass. Maybe I could get her to come back around to keeping that door because I don't want to replace.
So on my front door, it's not stained glass, but it's kind of like stained glass, but it's not stained, right? It's just you can't really see through it. It's got some etching around there, like stained glass does, and it's got that same type of glass. It's just not colored. So
we don't have a peephole. We have a camera.
I don't either.
We don't have a peephole to look through the door. It drives everybody in my family crazy because none of them are tall enough to see through the stained glass window because it's at the top of the door.
Where's the camera? Have them get a camera app. Don't you have a tablet right by your door with
I control all that. Okay. No, I said put it on your phones. You can see who's out the door. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to put an app on my phone. I'm like, well, then you're not going to see who's at the door.
The nice thing is too. I mean, most of them when they show up, your phone gives you a notification and you just touch it. It's not like you have to go find the app.
I love it.
And then you can talk. Can you talk on? Can
Yeah.
you talk to? Yeah, if you want to talk, hey, just leave it there and get out of here. Leave it on the board. You get out of here, loser. Get out of here.
You have 5 seconds to get away from this house right now.
Drop that bag and run.
When it comes to picking a community to live in, what do you think the most important thing is for the most important aspect for that community when they live in? This is this was done amongst Gen Zers, all the way up to baby boomers. So everybody, 2,000 people, everybody represented on this one. Reality One did the survey. What do you think the most important aspect to a community is?
Security.
Yes. They prioritize 70% of people, 69% prioritize safety over anything else. 53% say they look for friendly neighbors. Okay, hold up. How are you going to find out that information?
Well, you got to knock on. I'm going to look at this house and we go meet the neighbors.
I'm thinking about buying this house down here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, huh? You a pretty friendly person? Like, do you help out? Can I borrow a ladder?
I've talked about the fact that I moved into a neighborhood this year and we got a house, and I really lucked out because I have really great neighbors on both sides, and everybody in the neighborhood's pretty nice. Everybody walks their dogs. Let me tell you this. So I got the camera, right? I'm like, son of a bitch, they're letting that dog pee on my grass. Like, I walk George all the time. He is never allowed to pee on anybody's grass or go to the bathroom. Now, there's a few spots in the neighborhood where it's like drain rock, like gravel. And I'm like, all right, you can go there. You can go there. So Charlene, my wife, wants to put a sign in the front yard that says, keep your dogs off, or don't pee on our grass, or keep your dogs off our grass. I'm like, then we're going to seem like, jerks, for lack of a better term. But it drives me nuts because dog pee kills grass. I'm trying to have a nice yard here. I spend money on it.
My wife knows nothing about neighbor diplomacy. The other day I come home and she's like, you know what those kids down the street did? And I was like, what? Whoa, hold up. And so we're at the end of a cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac slopes up towards our house. So she sits there at the window
overlooking everybody, looking down on the
about
neighborhood.
10 different houses. It's like we're kind of into like the good seats in the arena for our neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
We can see everything that's going on the street that it intersects with and all that stuff. So she sees these kids come walking up the cul-de-sac, and we know that they're from a block and a half over, and she sees them walking up with their dog. So she's like eyeing them. She's like, what are they doing? They come walking up with their dog. Dog's off a leash, which she doesn't like that because she thinks there should be leash law. My wife's political leanings aren't always necessarily
in line.
What you think they'd be based on the amount of regulation she wants on everybody else's actions.
I know where she's going with this. She wants everybody. I mean, I always have my dog on a leash, but that's just because I don't trust him. Like he listens to me really good, but all he needs to see is a squirrel and he's gone.
Yeah. She has this pipe dream of going to her hometown and making everybody paint like an HOA, like making everybody paint their business the same color and have the same signage, so it's more aesthetically appealing. So business will stop by, which is not a bad idea considering that town. Anyways, she's standing there waiting, and as they get closer to the house, she decides to go down and get the mail because she's got to go to the street to get the mail. And she times it out perfectly to where these two kids come walking up with their dog, and she's at the mailbox. She's like, oh, how's it going? And the dog, we've had a dog that has been coming around and pooping in the front yard. I've noticed this because the other day I mowed the lawn, and there was 2 piles. And it's been a while since I mowed the lawn because I haven't had to. And so there's now, with the weather being what it is, it's starting to make the grass grow. So I went out, and I had 2 piles when I was mowing the lawn. So this dog she's like, "Oh, what's your dog doing in our yard?" To the kids, they're like, "Oh, come here, come here, come here." But as before they get a chance to get the dog out of the yard, he starts pooping. And then they say to her, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. He never usually does that." Well, she knows that I picked up 2 piles the other day. So she's like, "Oh, that's weird because we've had some piles." She's having this conversation with what I can only guess is like a 8 and a 10-year-old. Okay. and she's having this conversation. She's like, "That's weird because we had 2 piles of dog poop in the yard the other day and your dog seemed to know right where they were going." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, sorry about that." And she goes, "Well, you better make sure you go home and get like a bag or something like that to come back and pick it up." And I was like, "Wait, you made them go home 2 blocks away to get a bag?
Don't you guys have poop bags? I mean, you have a dog."
And that's what I said to her. I said, "Why didn't you just say, here, pick it up, take it with you? Or here, pick it up, throw it in our garbage." She's like, "Because that's not it's their responsibility to have bags with them. They're going to let their dogs walk around off the leash."
Well, she still kind of got that accomplished by saying, "Here, I know you didn't bring a bag. Make sure you bring a bag next time because you never know, right?"
And this is why my wife knows nothing about neighborhood diplomacy.
So what did it end up
happening? Because those kids are going to go home, tell the mom.
Oh, yeah. That bitch down there.
Yeah, and it's like now we got a war.
Just, I'm not calling Jeff's wife a bitch. This has been construed before. I'm just saying the kids might have said that to the mom because they were mistreated.
Because that's what they're thinking. Because they made her walk 2 blocks to pick up a little plastic bag and come back.
And Jeremy in the morning. 93.3 KZOZ rocks.
Jeff and Jeremy in the Morning podcast brought to you commercial free by another podcast. You've subscribed to ours, now subscribe to theirs. It's the Slow County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Swayze. When you're done with this, go listen to something that will actually enrich your life. California DRE 01111 911.